good. Welcome to the Sedro Woolley Rotary Club, the greatest club in the universe. Who said that? Chuck, do we have an invocation today?
I've become the resident minister, I guess. Anyway, let us pray. We thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We thank you for the opportunity to celebrate these scholarship winners from the best high school in the universe. Thank you for allowing us to be leaders in our community, both individually and as club members. Bless this food to our youth. Amen.
Amen. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Keith, do we have a song today? We can get you a mic.
Thank you. Well, our president started it off right, talking about the beautiful people. So let's do America the Beautiful. And I think this is a song that is to be savored, so don't go too fast. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any visiting Rotarians today? Visiting Rotarians? We have a visiting Rotarian. Can somebody introduce our visiting Rotarian?
This is Susie DeBris. She's from the Mount Vernon Rotary Club.
Welcome. Thank you for coming, Susie.
Well, you know, we have to embarrass them because we haven't seen them here for a while. So I would like to welcome back Adrienne.
Okay, so besides our scholarship winners, their families and spouses for anniversaries, do we have guests of Rotarians? Guests? No? Okay, then. Well, we're going to move on to club business. We'll get right through it. So thank you to everyone who came and helped and participated in our auction last Friday night. It was a great time. I think I had a lot of fun at Camp Rotary. So it was the event like that that makes it possible for us to be able to celebrate all these seniors today. So thank you guys for coming. I don't have the numbers, but I know that we're going to be having an auction debrief meeting in a couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll be able to share those auction numbers with you then. So I do know that the Dessert Dash raised $13,000 and we raised over $40,000 for scholarships. So we're going to get to have a luncheon like this with all of our seniors again next year. So good job, everyone. And then installation, my replacement, Ruth, is being installed on June 28th here. So make sure that you've registered or contact Becky LD or Ellen Schwager if you haven't registered or not. It's going to be a lovely evening as always. And Chris, did you want to say anything about the summer concert series? I know that you started advertising for that.
Yeah, we got all 4 bands picked. First concert is going to be on July 14th, then the 21st, the 28th, and then August 4th down at Riverfront Park from 6 to 8. We got some great bands lined up. I want to thank you, everybody that reached out to be a sponsor. And yeah, it's going to be a great year.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And then I don't know if anyone went to the work party last night because I was at the Mariners game with my sixth graders. Oh, we had 4 people show up to paint. Perfect. Hopefully everyone can show up next week. I think, is Dan here? I didn't see him. Dan, are we good for next week? Okay.
So we have one again this Saturday at 8 o'clock. It'll probably only take about an hour. The 4 of us last night knocked it out. Final coat of paint on that. And then possibly next week, there may be some work available to do during the day. If anybody's available, Nathan from the city will tell me. Because they'll be over here, they'll actually start their construction. Also, there's a person at work that bought one of our Rotary work parties probably 3 years ago, and he's wanting to cash it in. I'm going to go look. It's in Anacortes. It's going to be carpentry work, so doing some floors and some trim and things like that. So there's going to be some opportunities coming up for others that want to join in.
Perfect. Thank you.
Are they going to feed us in Anacortes? I hope so.
Okie dokie. Oh, Sheena?
I didn't collect the makeup sheet for the auction takedown on Friday. So there's one going around. If you see anybody on there and could sign in on their behalf that was, cleaning up and taking down on Friday, that would be great. So that's going around, and then I'll get y'all logged for a makeup.
All righty. And then also to add on to work parties, we have a work party at Tegan Ann Martin's on June 8th. We're good to go for that. So 8 a.m., right? That's what we said. I'll have more announcements as it gets closer, but we've got a lot of work parties and a lot of makeup opportunities for you guys. Do we have any other announcements? Okay, well, we are going to go into our anniversaries today. So Yulia.
That was a very fun auction for sure. It was so good to see everyone. And today is a special Thursday again because we're celebrating our anniversary couples. And we have 3 of them who have their anniversaries in May. Daryl and Betty Heisler on May 19th. And we have 2 couples that have representatives today. And 1 couple even has the spouse. Please give them a round of applause. Lynn and Tegan and Ann will be celebrating their anniversary on May 29th. They probably would like to share a few words with us about their journey.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be married 48 years on the 29th of May, and have 3 grown children that went through the Sedro Woolley school system. Joseph the older is a professor of oncology at Stanford now. And Heather, our daughter, is a nurse in Phoenix. And the younger boy, James, is a EMT firefighter in Seattle. So everything we told them about don't go into health sciences was wrong. They're all doing well in health sciences. So we're real proud of them and our 7 grandkids, 2 of which live next door. Thank you.
Oh, very special. Thank you. Yeah. And Lynn and Carla are going to be celebrating their anniversary on May 31st. Did I get that right, Lynn?
It's all true.
Well, tell us how marriage and retirement work together.
Well, I did have Dan last night ask me about that, or about being retired. And I didn't really clarify it too well. So Carla gets up every morning and goes to work, and I eventually drag out of bed after making her breakfast and then take a nap. I think that's getting old for her. But then Dan said, well, yeah, my wife's younger than me too. And I'm like, that isn't how it goes at our house. She's older than me anyway. So yeah, it's doubly, I guess, painful for her every day. And I get a text at least every other week or so. Can I retire now? Can I retire now? And I'm like, yeah, if you want. But we've been married 38 years. We'll be married 38 years and still married. So.
Well, I do hope you get to say that for many, many more years. Happy anniversary.
Thank you, Yulia. All right, we're going to go into the raffle today. Yep, let's do the raffle.
I think we're going to do 4 today. First number in the raffle is 64, 64. That'd be Cheek Martin. All right. That's the year you started high school? Sergeant in Arms pays $2. Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn. $2. Yeah. Next number is 20. 20. Whoa, our guest. We've got a guest here that just won. Thanks to Don Stryker's contribution. Is there anything on there for Stryker to pay $100? There might be. If you don't spin, you won't know. Past presidents pay $5 each. I love it. I love it. Good job. Okay, we got 2 to go. Number 11 is the next. Number 11, Jeff. All right. Everybody's spinning today. Wow. I think so. Lorenzo's $25 gift card. Way to go. Congratulations. Literally. Yes, I do. I need one more number. Okay, last number, 38, 38. 38, Eric. All right. Okay, Eric. So your birthday today? 38 today, and you won. Wow. Well, I'm sorry to say, Eric has hit we've already had this one. Spin again. It's your birthday. Spin again. It was the past presidents pay $5. $25 gift certificate, Railroad Pub and Pizza. All right, it's a good one.
I guess,
Okay.
thank you. If we would have known it was your birthday, Eric, we could have sang happy birthday to you.
Well, we still can.
We still can, definitely.
We still can.
So at this time, I'm going to have Jeff come up because we're going to talk about why all these young people are here today.
All right. Well, first of all, hello, everybody. Thank you, Madam President. So I'm Jeff McCann. I'm the chair of the scholarship committee. And it's always a fun day when we get to invite all the scholarship winners. And I never tell them this ahead of time, but they're all going to have to come up and line up here. Come on up. We're giving you money. That was. And I'm not going to, you don't have to do a whole lot. But we're just gonna have, in a moment, I'm just gonna pass the microphone down and introduce yourself and just tell us what your plan is for next year. So, but before we get to that, can we have all of the guests that came with them stand up? Because they would not be here if it wasn't for you, so thank you. Okay, so this year we gave out $40,000 to 14 kids. And so we spread our money a little thin, but it was worth it. And I'm really excited to have such a great group of kids here. So I'm going to start here and have you introduce yourself and let us know what your plan is for next year.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and I plan on going to Bellingham Tech to get my electrical license and then eventually get my teaching certificate.
Hi, I'm Bella, and I'm going to be attending University of Washington to study journalism.
Hi, I'm Georgia, and I'm going to Northwest Nazarene University to study engineering.
Hi, I'm Cruz Tredithik, and I'm going to Western Washington University to study to become a special education teacher.
Hi, I'm Gracie Sitton, and I'm going to Western Washington University to earn a bachelor's degree in elementary education.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm also going to Western Washington University, and I'm going to be a special education high school science teacher.
Hi, I'm Ty. I'm going to University of Washington to study pre-health sciences.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm going to University of Washington to study aerospace engineering.
Hello, I'm Julian Rodriguez Padilla, and I'll be playing football next fall at San Joaquin Delta College in California, and I'll be studying business and marketing.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and I'm going to the University of Idaho to go into the medical field.
Hi, I'm Heather Sanangela. I'm going to be attending University of Washington to study mechanical engineering.
I'm Alex Way. I'm going to be attending Sky Valley College next year to finish my prereqs and then decide where I want to go for a nursing program.
All right, well, I'd like to just one more time congratulate all of you. And also I'd like to send a special thanks to my committee who always comes through and takes, it's a lot of work to get all of the applications narrowed down, and it wouldn't be possible without my committee. Congratulations, guys. Good luck next year.
We'll give them a minute to take some photos. Okie dokie. Lynn, you are our Sergeant of Arms and our Happy Bucks guy today, so I'm going to turn it over to you so we can start to celebrate some stuff, I guess.
Got it. We're going to do this really quick. First off, this got sprung on me. So Mark, were you the one that sprung this on me? That'll be $1. I'm going to make this real easy. If you are over 60 years old, throw $1 on the table. Yeah, Mark, if you can collect and maybe grab one more person. If you are under 60 years old, throw $2 on the table. Right.
Guests
If,
do not have
if
to.
you're over 90, you're exempt. If you're over 90, you're exempt. All right. If you had an anniversary for today's anniversary announcement and did not bring your spouse, that'll be $1.
That should be $5, Lynn.
All right. I'm Sergeant at Arms. That'll be $1 for interrupting me, and I will pay $5 by the president's proclamation there. Let's see. I got to get one more thing before I turn or do Happy Bucks. If you were not at the work party painting last night, that'll be $1. There were only 4 of us there, so. All right, let's get into Happy Bucks so we can move on to our program here real quick. Who's got Happy Bucks? Here we go.
I have a happy 20. I'm putting in a Rotary request for the club. My team coordinator and my program director are busy planning a end of this school year barbecue event for middle schoolers, and we need some help with barbecues and Rotarians to barbecue some hot dogs. So I'm putting in a Rotarian request to June 14th. The plan is to serve hot dogs around 2-ish when they get done with school, but that is my request. Here's $20.
All right. I guess we're getting an email request.
I'll send it out.
I have a happy $5 just to acknowledge Danny for all the work she did at our auction. She didn't get to experience any of it. She was in the back doing everything. So awesome job. Thanks for taking care of it.
And
I got a happy 5 that the auction is over. And I will have numbers to you guys as soon as possible, but I think it was a very successful year, even with eliminating a few things, which made me very happy. I think we're going to have a lot of funds to do a lot of great things in the community. So great work to everyone.
Here's a happy 100. It's going to sound funny. My beloved mother-in-law passed away on Sunday, but she passed away on Mother's Day. It was peaceful. She was 90 years old and she was surrounded by friends and family. So it was as good as it gets. And I'm going to miss her. She's also the only one who stood up for me when I proposed, because the family was pretty suspicious about a goat farmer from Alger, and Mom said it would be okay. So I appreciated that.
Well, she's in good company. We were suspicious when you showed up here too.
Okay, I have a happy 50 and I didn't have cash, so I Venmo'd. So I just did that. I just want to share that this morning I got the chance to be with David Bricka and interview all the students that are honored here today, and their sense of community and the importance of staying together and staying connected. It's real and it's tangible. And I'm just so proud of who you've become and where you're headed. And we've got so many incredible, such talent. And that idea of community is what Rotary is all about, and what you guys have done to support and raise money to scholarship these students in their adventures. John, I know you've got 3 students out here that are going to be hitting you up for jobs when they graduate. I know I've got students that are going to be coming back, hopefully, to work at Sedro Woolley High School or in the school district, and then many, many more paths set forth. So just thank you. It means something. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Carrie. Did we have one more over here? Oh, Chris.
I shouldn't follow that, actually. I was just going to thank everybody, and my $4. Thank everybody for posting pictures of the Northern Lights, because I missed it all 3 nights. And so thank you for that.
Yep, one more over here.
Yeah, thanks. I have a happy 22 for all the amazing students. I can't believe you all think you know what you want to be when you grow up. I'm glad to hear it. I didn't hear a single field of study, though, that can't transition into being a park ranger, too. We do all those things. So think about that in your sophomore and junior years if you're thinking about switching gears. Thanks.
Now, there was one that was going to Skagit Valley College, and they have the Ranger program there. So keep that in mind if you don't find anything else, okay? Yep. All right. Do we have anything else? Madam President?
I
all
have
yours.
I have a happy 10 too. I'm happy that the auction is over as well, because now I'm just gonna slide into my presidency retirement. So I am going to now welcome Mark up to the mic so that he can introduce our program for today.
Well, I think if you're an early leaver, if you're a student that has to get back to class and you're really missing that class and you want to get back, you can leave now. But otherwise, I think we have a really good program today. We had a few weeks ago, we had Will Honey here, and Peter Browning came to talk about the dams on the Skagit River and the fish passage and all that. So Don Stryker, who's the superintendent of the national parks here, the North Cascade National Park, volunteered to bring along a couple of his friends to fill us in on the rest of that from their perspective. So I'm going to introduce Don, and he can introduce his friends that he brought with him. So Don Stryker.
Thanks. And maybe if we could grab that second mic too, because we'll probably be doing a decent amount of back and forth here. I wanted to introduce my Chief of Visitor Services, Denise Schultz. And if you don't know what visitor services are, that's all the rangers that you see that are not doing emergency services, right? So visitor centers, education programs, et cetera, et cetera. And Ashley Rawhauser is our Chief of Resources. So that's all the fisheries and vegetation management, all of our important cultural resources. And they're going to be carrying the bulk of this presentation. What I wanted to do is just start by maybe orienting you a little bit to the park. You can see, and Denise, if you want a Vanna.
Oh, I have the Vanna.
I'm the Vanna? It's actually a really big park, and you may not realize it, but we go all the way from the Canadian border down to Stehekin. It's about 750,000 acres, and we get about 1 million visitors a year. So it's a pretty big, complex operation. And this hydropower relicense is only one piece of it. We're following up on the presentation that Will did. This is, I think 2 years ago or a year ago, I introduced myself to you folks and said there were 2 jobs that are really a lot of work for us, the jobs that ate my brain. One was grizzly bears, right? We recently had an announcement on grizzly bears. And the other one is this FERC energy hydropower relicensing project. Just to orient, and by the way, this is mostly a chance for you to ask questions. So we're gonna blow through some slides early on just to give this some context, but we really want this to be more about you. So if you have questions along the way, just shout them out, right? Feel free to interrupt, in other words. And we can also shift gears and go in a different direction if you're tired of talking about hydropower. But the important thing is we have the 3 hydropower dams, as Will pointed out, that are actually within the bright line boundaries of the National Park Service. And in the Federal Power Act, the act that authorizes hydropower on federal lands, there's a special provision that says if the dams are built on public land, then the public agency whose land they're on gets to condition the license. So we can add certain conditions that they will be required to do. This is really broad authority, and it's a really big responsibility. And I think Ashley in particular is going to go into one of the ways that we may exert that conditioning authority, which is fish passage, right? So the biggest impact that the dams have had have been on fish and on communities that rely on fish. So we're spending a little bit of time talking about that. Ash, I would typically turn this over to you at this point, just because, you know, you're a recovering fish biologist and I'm an aspiring fish biologist, but really an accountant. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, so, you know, the three Skagit dams, I'm just assuming everybody's been up the river, seen the dams, been over Washington Pass. They actually block about 30% of the Skagit watershed up there in the foothills of the North Cascades. And so they really sort of interrupt the flow of water and gravel coming down the river system. And they have a pretty big impact on a lot of the salmon and trout species that we see in the Skagit River. And so it has sort of a pretty big impact, you know, all the way down to Mount Vernon, Burlington, and out into Puget Sound in terms of salmon production. And so that's largely one of the reasons why we're so focused on this process right now is to really help recover some of these salmon populations in the Skagit River. I'll just keep going.
Yeah, keep rolling.
All right.
Keep rolling.
So this is like fish, so you're going to have to shut me up at some point. You know, largely one of the things we're really focused on, and I've got another slide on this too, is the recovery of salmon, and that has like two pieces to it. And one of those is, you know, fish passage, and the other one is restoring habitat and flows in the river downstream. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, there's harvest opportunities, both tribal, commercial, and recreational harvest opportunities in the river system that are really important. And the other one is sort of that natural ecosystem function. So, you know, we have the bald eagles coming to the river every year. We've seen a big decrease in chum salmon over the last couple of years, and we're seeing less eagles because of that. So that's another reason the Park Service is focused on that. I love how Don has these slides, and then I just have to react to them. So there's a bunch of stuff on here, and I'll give you a heads up, Denise. I'll have you talk about rec in a second. But there are, you know, cultural impacts to, you know, historic structures that are up and around the hydro project, traditional tribal properties, tribal fisheries. There are impacts on wildlife, fish and wildlife species that we're working on, trying to fix, if you will. And then there's this huge list of aquatic and fisheries resource issues that we're working on. And then we also have recreation.
Thanks, Ash. And just so you know, I was a Rotarian scholarship recipient in 1982. So thank you all for letting me be here today doing what I'm doing because of that scholarship. So recreation is a requirement as a part of the federal Power Act. The licensee, in this case, Seattle City Light, is required to provide recreation opportunities. So part of what we're looking at from the perspective of the Park Service complex is what recreational opportunities do we want to either enhance, what areas do we want to protect, what other mitigations might we be looking for. We're primarily looking at being able to provide additional accessibility opportunities. So as you can imagine, North Cascades National Park is pretty vertical. And so the concept of being able to have accessibility for those that may have physical or other challenges can be a little bit difficult. And so as we're looking at recreation opportunities, that's one of the things that we are trying to focus on, is to make sure that we are providing a broad range of opportunities for every visitor that comes to the park to be able to have a really great experience. We also, as a part of recreation, are looking at noise. The power, production of power does create noise. There's also light that is also created by the hydropower project. And so those are some of the other areas in recreation that we're looking at. Do you want to?
Yeah, so I think big picture, and one of the things that I probably didn't mention is we hope not to have to condition the license, right? We're actually spending a lot of time negotiating with Seattle City Light to get terms so that we can come to what they call a comprehensive settlement agreement, so that we don't actually have to condition them. And the reason for that is we can't just make things up willy-nilly. And if we insist on conditions, the city has the option of taking us to what's called a trial type hearing, which is basically a hearing before the administrative judge. And we would have to show, we have a burden of proof to show that the conditions that we were putting in make sense with respect to the underlying laws and policies of the National Park Service. So why this is important to you all, I like to think of it as we're sort of your best bet for making sure that we're not going to let Seattle get away with having this hydropower project at our expense, right? We're the hammer to be able to make sure that they're doing things to mitigate the impacts that they have here in Skagit County. And many of the other partners come to us and express what they would like us to do in terms of exercising that conditioning authority. And all of you are another one of the stakeholders that can get involved in making sure that we insist on them doing this project right. It's probably, the current numbers that I'm hearing is it's probably around a $4 billion proposition, the things that we're asking for in terms of this list of things that Ash and Denise just went over. So we're not taking it lightly. We're taking it pretty seriously. There's, as I think, as Will said, there's still pretty big daylight in between where the Park Service is and where Seattle City Light is.
This is my section.
If it has to do with fish. Great question. So the question is, when you look at the water budget, is there any room for rural landowners? And I would think farmers, yeah, right? So I'm going to let Ashley take that one.
I could have guessed. So that's related to like water right issues, and City Light actually is the senior water right holder in the upper watershed, and so the release of water for anything other than hydropower has to go through the City Light water right. And so the relicense of the Skagit project doesn't really address that issue. It's mainly focused on flows in the river, timing of those flows, recreational improvements and things of that nature. So that would be something more, and I'm just going to guess that, you know, it would be a Department of Ecology type decision to make and not associated with a FERC license.
So what stakeholders should come in and say they want water?
You have the Skagit Diking District at the table, and you have the Skagit County participating in. So you feel like you're not being heard.
Well, if there's no money or no water for rural landowners to drill wells and for farmers to take more water out of the watershed, and it's not being considered, what do we got to do? We need to get somebody in there to fight for that.
Yeah, I mean, you do need somebody to advocate for water right issues. I guess what I'm saying is this process isn't that process. So that would be a water rights claim that would go through like Department of Ecology through their adjudication process for water rights. This is largely focused just on operation of the dams and hydropower and not water availability downstream. Does that?
So we can help negotiate the flows in the main river.
That's what it's all about.
And that's where that would come in is there an additional piece of that water budget? What we can do in terms of conditioning that would pass a trial type hearing, we the Park Service, would have to be flows that serve the purposes of the national park system, right? Which is largely restoring natural conditions, making sure that there's enough water for fish at all their various life stages, making sure that there's a flow regimes that would do the things to form channels, making sure that we augment the gravel that the dams are holding back, but we probably can't get into conditioning outside of the bright line boundaries so that downstream farmers could have what, right? So I think what Ash is suggesting is it would be important for the county entities who sit in on the water budget conversation to make sure that they have that interest. And Will has been a really good champion on behalf of Skagit County. So we need to put that bug in Will's ear.
Yeah, in this process, your representative would be Commissioner Browning.
Yep.
Would be your representative on that issue.
On to fish.
On to fish. And, you know, I've got some slides. I don't think any of this is new. We hear about this in the news all the time. Two of the primary fish species that we're focused on in the relicense are, of course, Chinook and steelhead, which, as we all know, they're in crisis in Washington State. I'm a science guy, so next slide.
Keep going.
Gonna have some graphs when you get me up here. That's just the way it is. So this is just a graph showing, you know, the current run size of Chinook in the Skagit River, and then that orange line on top is sort of the recovery goal for Chinook. So you can see there's a pretty big gap there between the run sizes that we need to hit recovery and what we currently have in the river. You can go to the next slide. This is a similar graph just for steelhead. We're doing a little bit better for steelhead, but there's still quite a bit of a daylight between the recovery targets, which are set by the National Marine Fisheries Service, and what we currently have for returns in the Skagit River. I'm a steelheader, so I'm really hoping to make a difference on this one. And, you know, sort of the take-home message for us going into the relicense process is, you know, we've had the current license has been in place for 30 years. It's largely focused on red protection and incubation protection of fish, with some habitat restoration occurring downstream. And, you know, we look at those graphs and we haven't seen a big change over that 30-year period of time. And that's a long time to be working really hard on this issue. And so we're hoping with the next license, which could be as long as 50 years, that we can sort of move the needle in terms of salmon recovery. And I don't really need to go into details on a lot of these bullets because a lot of it's, you know, the classic doom and gloom that scientists love to talk about. But we're really trying to use this as an opportunity to get out ahead of some of the challenges we're going to be facing in the future and build a more resilient fish stock in the river system. Next slide, Don. So, you know, one of the, you know, we're sort of calling it the big lift. And it's really composed of three components for benefiting fish. And one is, you know, restoring a flow regime to the river system. We're calling those functional flows. Those are flows that sort of shape the habitat in the river system. This is a large gravel bed river, so the flows and the gravel sort of go hand in hand with each other to make the fish habitat. I've got a couple images here. I know they're probably hard to see in the back of the room. This is sort of the Skagit River in the park, just below the hydro project. You can see it's like a single river channel with a few islands in it. Ultimately, we'd like to see something more similar to like what we see on the Sauk River, with sort of large gravel bed exposed, a meandering river channel that provides more habitat for fish. And so a lot of our focus is on that stretch of the river in the park and really trying to improve the habitat there because it's obviously the most protected habitat in the watershed with the least impact to private landowners. So we're hoping to do a lot of heavy lifting there. This is just a slide I threw in to sort of show generally what we're thinking about when we're trying to restore some of these natural river systems. And it's habitat for fish year round. So it's the, you know, winter rearing habitat, the summer rearing habitat. And that's really one of the critical things that all the recovery plans and all the science is telling us we need to restore is sort of this rearing habitat. So when fish are emerged from the gravel until they're up to 3 years old, providing the best habitat for them. So when they go out to the ocean, they're as big and healthy as they can be, and that will hopefully increase our escapement or our return rates for fish in the river. This is just a sciencey plot of the flows that we currently have in the river system. So the black points are the flows that are coming out of the hydro project currently. And these are called water days. And so 0 on this end is October 1st. And then at the other end of the graph, we would have September 31st on the water year. That's how water years work. And as you can see, the red and the blue lines are different models for what the Skagit River would naturally look like in terms of its flow. So you can see the current flow in the Skagit River is much different than naturally occurred in the river. And we're thinking this has a pretty big impact on salmon because these salmon have evolved for the red and blue flows, not the black flows. So we're trying to nudge things back to the black flows.
Yeah, did you just want to identify the other axis that's how much water is?
Yeah, so this is cubic feet per second. So that's the flow volume or the magnitude, the size of the flows in the Skagit River. This is another plot, kind of the same data, looking at it a different way. And this is a busy one. The point I want to make is we've been working a lot with the Skagit Diking District on bringing back what we call channel maintenance flows to the river system. So these are flows that move gravel around and sort of clean the spawning gravel, if you will, and maintain that spawning gravel habitat and that rearing habitat. And what we've identified as the critical flow for that is this black line here, with what we call the D84 mobility reach, as measured in reach 2B. So that gets pretty technical. But so we're working trying to recover those flows because that's a flow that's large enough to maintain and create habitat, but it's not so large that it's going to impact private property and infrastructure in the county. And so that's one of those critical things that we're working on. And also important for us to hear from folks that especially live up valley, any concerns they might have with those 26,000 CFS flows. So flood level in concrete is 80,000 CFS. And so we're proposing 26,000 CFS. And so we're well below the flood level, but it's still good to hear from people if they have concerns about those. We want to hear about them now. One of the big things is fish passage. We hear a lot about sort of the mythology that's been created over the years that salmon could not get up above the dams just because it was such a tight gorge. We've really taken a deep dive into the historic record, looked at a lot of historic photos. I've got some more on a thumb drive here if folks want to see them. But we haven't found no barrier to fish passage in the Skagit River system. And so we entered this process thinking that if there's no evidence of a barrier, we're going to assume that salmon could get up into the park. And that's kind of how we proceeded in our negotiations with the city on this point. And the other point I want to make is, this is a highly altered system. Even though the habitat that the park manages is in really good shape, it is a highly managed system, and we need to manage it for the best use possible. And we also believe that includes fish passage and using the park to sort of improve our salmon production in the basin. And this last bullet is, we're approaching the management going forward as it's a river system with some really large lakes in it because they're going to be there in perpetuity most likely. This is another slide. There's just a heck of a lot of habitat in the park for salmon, miles and miles of it. So this has a huge potential to be a big game changer for salmon production in the Skagit system. And so we can't really understate enough that it's hard to get to, not a lot of people can see it, but there's just a lot of potential up there. Great. And that's the end of my graphs and whatnot.
So that was very fish focused and very fast.
Will when talked to us, he was saying that the records were hard to come by for early fish passage, but it's hard to believe the Canadians aren't missing the fish, or at least the up Hozameen and upriver from there. There has to be somebody that remembers or had a picture or something of people catching fish up there.
It's remarkable. Is all I can say. We have some early historic records of some early horsepackers who used to take people on fishing vacations up there before the dams went in. And we have oral history where they were talking about fishing for speckled trout like they would catch in some of the salmon-bearing rivers in Oregon. And so based on that account, we're thinking they were probably taking people up there to fish for summer steelhead. The way they described the run sounds very similar, which those of you who are steelheaders know that upper Skagit area would probably be really amazing summer steelhead habitat. And then in terms of the Canadian record, there really isn't much to go on. Like you would think the RCMP, or there would have been like an outpost up there. And we have not found anything, which is really kind of remarkable. So we're sort of stuck using this survey that the USGS did in 1914, where they surveyed the Skagit River from Concrete up to the Canadian border. And as part of that survey, they documented waterfalls, which would be really the only definitive salmon barrier that we would document anymore. It would be like a 12-foot waterfall. So steelhead and Chinook can jump over 12-foot waterfalls. And they measured those features. They measured a bunch in the North Fork of the Sauk River as part of that survey. They didn't measure any waterfalls in the Skagit River. So there's just again, we're giving the benefit of the doubt to the fish. Because we have not seen a waterfall, we've seen no pictures of waterfalls, and that survey didn't turn any waterfalls up. So
and we don't know what we don't know, right? 100 years with the dams there. If the dams hadn't been there over the past 100 years, who knows what the fish would have done? So the presence or absence in the historic record is not the only factor that weighs into, does it make sense to do fish passage now with the conditions that we're operating in currently? I will say that one of the First Nations in Canada sort of laughed at this notion of, why do you have to have science, or why are you doing genetic work to see what kind of fish are there? Our traditional ecological knowledge tells us that salmonids were in this river, and that should be good enough for you, was sort of the lecture that we got from one of them. So it's a good question, and it's a hot debate, right? Fish passage is really, really expensive, and I think it's fair to say that the record of the last 100 years is that Seattle City Light has done a pretty good PR job to try to avoid having to do fish passage. And that's why I think there's this myth out there that fish couldn't get beyond the dams. And in fact, we proved that fish would be beyond the first dam. And they had to change the signs that they were posting there in the project area. Interesting. John. Yeah, I don't really have a breakdown, and I want to be a little bit careful because the negotiations are confidential, but they have thrown around the idea that it's $4 billion. By the way, John's question, what's the distribution of that $4 billion? I think it's fair to say they're thinking the biggest single piece of that is fish passage, and that would probably come in at around $2 billion, and then everything else put together is the same. But we really haven't negotiated numbers yet, right? And Will can be much more candid than I can in terms of talking about the relative rates that Seattleites have paid for a long, long time at the expense of us. Good. I won't belabor it for questions. And we can always come back and talk about not relicensing and other fun things going on in the park if you want to do that. Even grizzly bears, if you wanted to talk more about that. It's all good.
You have, well, hold on, the other two, you guys can't go anywhere yet because your next presentation wouldn't be a presentation without a pen from the world's greatest Rotary Club, or the greatest club in the universe, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right, so thank you to the students that stayed and their families. Congratulations. We hope you come back after you've gone to college and become adults, well, adultier than you already are now, and tell us what you've done. And then a happy anniversary, Ann and Teak, and Lynn and Carla, and I missed one. And happy birthday to Eric. I have a joke that I just found, so I found a fish joke because I thought it was appropriate. So a salmon walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Hey, salmon, what can I get you?" And the salmon says, "Water."